Hey guys, welcome back, it's Ripe again. In today's video, a ridiculous homeowner association foreclosed and sold my house because of a $1,250 debt in unpaid HOA dues that I was not even aware of. Here is what happened. Let's dive right into the HOA story. So I was part of one of the most unfair situations and sidestepping lawsuits I've ever heard of. In fact, I don't even know anything was wrong until I was being sent a letter of eviction to my house. The only thing was that me being evicted did not make a lick of sense. I owned the home and did not have a mortgage on it or a landlord to pay rent to. I had to pay property taxes, but I knew I was doing that. The IRS was the last group I would want to mess around with. Looking further into the notice and getting information from my town hall, it turns out that my home had been foreclosed on and then sold, all without me knowing any of it. I was confused, scared, and angry at the entire thing. I was still at the town hall and trying to get somebody that could come and explain it to me. I might have seemed like a Karen to them, with refusing to leave until I saw somebody, but I didn't care. This was my home and now I was being told to leave within the next 7 days. I did speak to somebody who had more information than the paperwork they gave me had. According to them, my house was foreclosed on by the HOA due to an outstanding debt I had with them. They then sold my home for only half of what it was worth, which to me felt like an extra kick. I know that when you buy foreclosed homes, they can be cheap, but come on. Now, the biggest thing about the news I got was hearing the HOA was involved. Putting any preconceived opinions of HOAs I had aside, I did not belong to one. I did not even know that there was an HOA in the neighborhood, let alone the fact that I was a member. I had to go and find somebody from the HOA to explain this to me, since the town hall was all out of answers. I swear, I spent 2 days running around trying to track people down. I finally got a hold of somebody from the HOA that could answer my questions. The main one being, what the hell, why did you foreclose my house without telling me anything? According to them, I had years of unpaid dues that added up to, get ready for this, $1,250. I just need to go on a little side rant here for a second. They basically sold my house for over $300,000 because I owed them $1,250. The fact this is legal, first of all, is insane, because yes, it's not a small amount of money, but it is when compared to the worth of my house. Seriously, I would have expected hearing a number way closer to the cost of my house than just that. Okay, back to the plot though. I told them how I couldn't have owed them money since I was not a member. They told me that when I bought a house, I was automatically enrolled into the HOA. I guess they just never felt the need to tell me during all of these years. I then asked why I was not told about owing them money, because if it came down to my home being foreclosed, I would have given them all the money they needed. I would not have been happy about it, but I would have dug into my savings and given it to them. They then went on with this whole speech of how it's not their responsibility and the burden is on me and not them, which I don't think is right at all. They should need to tell people, not go right into selling their home and never bothering to tell them. Going back to the paperwork though, I did not know why the town didn't alert me of this either. It turns out that in places where a normal homeowner should sign, the HOA was allowed to just sign on my behalf. I had nothing I could do aside from suing the HOA, but the eviction notice was legally binding, so in the meantime I had to pack my entire home in a few days and then leave. I had nowhere to go or enough money for a new home. I put my stuff in storage and stayed with my sister until I could sort things out. She was actually the one that told me to get a lawyer and fight the HOA because they could not get away with this kind of crap. Honestly, between letting me stay with her and helping with the legal stuff, she was a saint. Huge shout out to my big sister and her husband. The lawyer I met with told me that while they did not do anything blatantly illegal, they skirted around the rules enough that I had a potential lawsuit. I wanted the foreclosure reversed and the ability to get my house back. To make things more complicated, there was third party now involved. The new homeowner had his own lawyer fighting for the fact that he paid for the house legally and should get to keep it. The base chunk of my lawsuit was that the HOA and then town hall did not follow the correct protocols. Mainly the HOA, because the town hall was just guilty of not informing me directly about the foreclosure and instead relying on the HOA to be the ones to tell me. Just to get that out of the way, the person in charge of that section got into trouble. Now, the main course everybody has been waiting through my ramblings for, the lawsuit. The HOA came with their lawyer, showing that all of the paperwork was legal and according to the law, they had the right to foreclose on my property based on not paying dues. My lawyer stepped in and said there was a precedent for a homeowner that had never paid dues and having the right to be informed it was something they needed to. That in this case, my ignorance of being a member was a justified reason to not pay because I never gave them money. They were also meant to send me warnings of money being due, as well as other things I was never provided with, such as access to the bylaws I was meant to follow and information regarding meetings and elections. There had been 2 elections during my time as an apparent member with nothing being sent to me. He was on a roll and also showed that there were 2 other homes currently being foreclosed on in the neighborhood with the HOA on the paperwork. Both for the same reasoning as me. When alerted by my lawyer, they too had no clue what was about to happen or that there even was an HOA. Again, their side was claiming it didn't matter if I knew because they had the right to sell my house to get their money. A fairly solid point on their side was that we didn't have much to argue against. Still, the court found in my favor against the HOA and I was gonna be granted a reversal of the foreclosure. Don't forget now that there was a new guy living there and fighting with his own lawyer about how he paid for the house legally and did not want to move away. I wish I could give a happy ending saying that I was able to force him out and get my home back. That didn't happen, but there's still a light at the end of the tunnel. The HOA had to pay me and not what my house sold for. They had to pay me what the house's actual market value was, which meant I was able to go and afford a brand new house for myself. It also meant they went bankrupt and had to shut down. I missed my old one, but it was not anything crazy or worth fighting over. This house was nicer anyway, and the best part was, there's no HOA. I checked this time. And yeah, Ripe Stars, if you enjoyed this HOA story, please don't forget to like the video and maybe even post a comment because that would help me tremendously. The next one is titled, Entitled Karen Skips the Line. And need to know detail beforehand, it was really hot. It was about 35 degrees Celsius, but it felt like 44. Important detail for later, so I was standing in line at the checkout at my local supermarket. I think in total I had about 10 items, some frozen goods, drinks and snacks as well. I usually tend to take out one of my earbuds of my phone so in case someone addresses me, I would hear it. At this time, the woman at the cash register was taking care of the payment of one client and there was one person in front of me. Then suddenly she appeared, the entitled mom in this story. Now honestly, she didn't look like it, she didn't even give off a mean vibe or anything, even the way she started talking to me was overall nice and polite at first. Excuse me, do you mind if I skip ahead? I'm in a hurry. Now, in general, if somebody politely asks me this and I don't have any urgent business of my own, I usually don't mind. This time, however, I did not have that many groceries, so her delay would be at most a few minutes. While she was pushing a fully loaded shopping cart in front of her, so if I would have her let her skip, I would probably be still in the store for another 10 or 20 minutes. So then I politely declined and tell her that I will hurry as much as I can. Of course, this was a great offense to her. I had not given this woman her entitlement. She blew up instantly, yelling and screaming at me that she was in a hurry and, not kidding here, had to be home in time for her shows. Now, at this time, I would like to point out that during this rant, she only said she had to be home in time for shows and that they were very important to her. There was nothing else making this urgent for her. This is important a bit later. Now, while this woman was going off, the person at the cash register went into ignore mode and just started scanning my groceries, which I loaded into a bag while the EM was going on about how I was garbage and they should ban me from the store. Now, this should have been the end of it, just turn around and go home and forget this happened, but then she said something that, number 1, made me almost want to kill her, and number 2, made this a postable story. While I was walking away, just about to put the earbud back in, she yells, "If you pass by my car, tell my son he's the reason he has to wait another half an hour for me." Now, I'm not an extremely smart person, but in this moment my brain made some connections quickly. What I realized was this. Number 1, again, it was very hot outside. Number 2, this woman had been in the store for a while, judging by the amount of groceries. And number 3, the entire parking lot of this store had almost no shade. Number 4, it was about 2 PM, so the sun was just over its peak. I rush outside and start running past cars, scanning them for kids inside. Thankfully, one of the first cars I pass has a small child laying in the back seat. This kid is as pale as a ghost, sweating like crazy, and it looked like he was only half conscious. I run back inside, and to my utter astonishment, this Karen is having a conversation with the cashier while she is checking out her groceries. I grab her by the shoulder, spin her around, and yell almost straight to her face that her kid is literally dying in your car. And if you don't do something right now, I'm smashing in your windows and calling the cops. At first she looked at me in complete confusion, probably never been spoken to like that before in her life. Then the realization of what I told her sunk in, and she rushed outside. While she went outside, a man tapped me on the shoulder and asked what had happened exactly. I explained the situation, actually leaving out the bit at the cash register, just saying that I saw the kid in the car and knew that this woman was probably the owner. He went outside, and when I came outside, the entitled mom suddenly rushed me and got in my face saying that I was the reason that she was in the store for so long and her son's current condition was my fault. Before I can even respond, the man that approached me earlier speaks up. Turns out this man was an off-duty cop and had been in the store for a while, and as such knew that the actual delay caused by me could not have caused this. He also said he had already called an ambulance for the kid and the cops for her, and I don't know what happened to the EM, but she completely crashed. She just sat down on the pavement and started shaking her head, not saying much except the occasional sob or "not my fault." As for the ending, everything turned out okay for most parties involved. I stayed a while to give a statement to the cops and my contact info in case it went to court. The kid was okay afterwards, and since his mom got arrested, they called his dad or another male family member, I didn't ask, to accompany him to the hospital. As for the EM, I'm assuming she's gonna have to stand trial for child endangerment, not sure if she will just get a fine or even jail time. And now we have an update to the story, and it reads like this. I was contacted by the police a few days ago, last Friday. I went to the station where they went over my statement, asked if I wanted to add or amend anything. I said I didn't, and they could not really tell me directly what was gonna happen with the mom or the family in general, but said that the standard punishment, when the child is not seriously hurt or dead, is usually a GAS fine. GAS stands for something in Dutch, and it is in English, Municipal Administrative Sanction. I think it's kind of sad something bad has to happen before serious punishment is handed out. I don't know what the amount of the fine will be, but as for me, it could not be high enough. I haven't seen any of those people in the store or in the area in general, but also I don't know if they live near here or were just passing by the store by coincidence. Or maybe they are just avoiding the store, that's also possible. That will probably be the end of this tale. I know many of you hoped for something worse for the mom, but sadly, life is not fair, but at least the child lived, and let's hope the mom learned a lesson. And the next one is an XXL Am I the A-hole story. So my siblings and I inherited money from our grandfather when he passed away. Our dad was the administrator, and he was not super strict and let us have access to it for practical things. I convinced my dad to let me have some of it early to buy a condo. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom condo, and the price was amazing and very close to the university. After I bought it, my 2 best friends moved in with me and paid rent, and we lived there until we graduated grad school. I ended up getting married and then moved away. I've rented it on and off, and family has lived there as well while attending university. I have 3 full siblings, and 2 blew through the money in a few years and made very poor decisions. When the virus happened, my brother and sister-in-law went through some very hard times. They asked me if they could move into the condo until they could get back on their feet and save money. I agreed, but told them my rules: the master bedroom was mine and I could show up at any time. I did not want to get any emails from the HOA, we were good. I'm now getting divorced and share a 50-50 custody with my ex. So I got the option of working remotely or going into the office. 1 week a month when my daughter is with her dad, I've been flying back home and staying at the condo. I have felt a strong desire to be with my friends and want to spend more time with family. Here's where the issue is though, I sometimes drop in last minute. On a whim, I catch a direct flight back home and just show up. This has started to annoy my sister-in-law. She gets even more upset when I invite my friends over and we are drinking in the living room, acting like college kids again. It came to a head last weekend where she confronted me about how inconsiderate I was. She said it was rude not to give notice of when I was showing coming up and asked that I let her know a week in advance. She also said that she didn't want my friends hanging out more than once a week and needed to be gone by 11 p.m. Here is where I might be the a-hole. At first I laughed and then I got mad. I ripped into her and asked her who the F she thought she was. I reminded her that I was the owner of the condo and that she had absolutely no authority to be laying out rules, especially when she was not paying for crap. I told her if she ever came at me like that again, I would toss her out on her ass, and if my brother felt the same way, he could leave with her. My brother confronted me and told me that yes, the place was mine and they were guests, but as a courtesy, I could give them some notice, and having my friends over was also inconsiderate without notice. I told him no, and he called me an a-hole. My friends and I are not loud, by the way. Sister-in-law is very religious and is upset because we drink and have very adult conversation that offend her. So Reddit, judge me, am I the a-hole? By the way, brother and sister-in-law don't pay any of the bills, they are in my name. They have lived in the condo since April 2020. I would have to serve them with a notice to vacate if they refuse to leave on their own. And yeah, ripe stars, let me know in the comments what you think about this. Is OP the a-hole here or not? Someone on Reddit said, everyone sucks here. Yes, they're not paying anything, but for decency's sake, you could tell them a couple of days or whenever you know that you're coming over and having guests. A week is a bit much maybe, but it's not like they are asking for veto power, just a heads up. As for the guests, you say in one paragraph that you act like college kids and the next that you are quiet. Which is it? If it's a weekday, then I think the request to tone it down after a certain hour is just fair. All in all, it seems like you're on a bit of a power trip and your sister-in-law is stressed about the situation and demanding things past reason. I think maybe if you all calm down and sit down and have a real talk with empathy, this could be resolved fairly easily. Comment number 2, normally I would say NTA, but you have to catch a flight. There's no reason you cannot have the courtesy of telling them going home before opening the door with surprise. Also, sister-in-law's expectations are both ridiculous and B, against the pre-discussed terms. Therefore, everyone sucks here except the brother. Anyway, the next one is titled, My Dog is More Important Than You. I, 23 male, lived with my girlfriend Anne, 22 female, and my dog Bo. Recently, Anne's brother, AL, 25 male, got laid off from work and could not afford to pay rent anymore. Anne asked if L could stay with us and I didn't see why not. Anne is not on speaking terms with her parents and I assumed L probably also wasn't and didn't have another place to go. Plus, I really loved Anne and I wanted to show her how important she was to me. Here's the issue, Anne told me L had a mild dog allergy. When I initially spoke with both of them, I said I would do my best to accommodate them but would not under any circumstances get rid of Bo. Both understood and L said his allergy was not too bad. L moved in and to be honest he was not a great roommate. He did not seem to be in a hurry to move out as he spent most of his time sleeping and playing video games instead of looking for work. He did not pitch in for chores and let laundry pile up in his room and then acted confused when I told him he had to do his own laundry. He ate the food we cooked but did not help with cooking or buying groceries. The worst is he ordered lots of fast food for himself and left wrappers, bags and old food in his room, which made the whole apartment smell bad. After a month or so, L said his allergies were getting worse and asked me to consider putting Bo in a shelter. I said absolutely not, but Anne said we should consider getting rid of Bo to accommodate her brother's needs. I said no and we would not be discussing this further. She called me the a-hole for choosing my dog over my family, and that is when I snapped. I said L is not family and has been nothing but a hassle for the past month and that if she wants to babysit her older brother, she can find her own place. She has no legal right to stay here because my name is on the lease and I pay rent. Anne is in grad school and does not make enough money to afford a decent apartment on her own. She tried again to convince me that I should prioritize L over Bo, so I gave her an ultimatum. Either L is gone in 24 hours or I kick both of them out. Bo stays no matter what. Both have since moved out and while Anne and I are not officially broken up, I have not heard from her in a few days. I know this may sound harsh, but Bo is my family. He has been with me through some of my hardest times and he is a rescue, which means he was already abandoned once and I will not let that happen again. I feel nothing for L, and while I thought I loved Anne, her willingness to get rid of someone I love as much as her made my feelings change. When I explained this to my parents and sister, however, they said I should have at least considered getting rid of Bo to accommodate L and that they could even take care of Bo themselves so he didn't have to go to a shelter. They said if I saw N as family, which I did at one point, I should be able to make sacrifices. But that was a sacrifice I was not willing to make. Does that make me the a-hole? Edit, I realized I used both Amy and Anne for my girlfriend's name. None of them are her real name, sorry for the confusion. Update, holy crap, I was not expecting this. Thanks for the support, a lot has happened in the past couple of days and I want to share that with you. So first, I officially broke up with Anne, my parents have since apologized to me. Apparently they did not realize the extent of my living situation with Anne and Elle and thought I would only be getting rid of Bo for a few weeks. They even gave me money for changing my locks and installing a fancy security system. Lastly, this whole experience made me think there are many dogs out there who have been cast aside for reasons similar to this, so not only am I keeping Bo, but I'm planning on adopting a second dog from a local shelter. My next girlfriend will be told upfront that I'm a dog over SO kind of guy. And the user in the comments said, not the a-hole, everything you said was accurate, honestly, you are all not together anymore. Kicking her out was breaking up with her, and good for you. She is clearly heartless to consider putting your dog in a shelter for a lame roommate who could have taken an allergy pill. And another commenter said, not the a-hole, if she loves you, she would have never asked you to get rid of your dog. She is prioritizing her brother over you and your feelings, you're probably better off just moving on and finding someone else who wants the same things out of life. And by the way, your family is also wrong and I'm honestly not sure why they would take her side. Some people just don't care as much about animals, which is very sad. Animals are better than most people I have met. And yeah, Ripe Stars, let me know in the comments what you think about this. Do you agree with OP and the commenters, or do you think that OP is the a-hole? Let me know in the comments. And with this, we have reached the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching, and please don't forget to check out my playlists for more awesome videos. Also, if you haven't already, I would very much appreciate it if you could subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell to not miss any videos. Thank you so much, I will see you again tomorrow.